Hello and welcome here to Talking SCB, and we are domestic double winners. That's correct, we have secured 2 out of the 3 possible trophies available to us at the end of the season. The Champions League just about slipped out of our grasp, but we have secured the La Liga title, and 1 week on from that, we are now Copa del Rey winners for the 2nd successive season. It's been an incredible year, and I'm going to be summing up in this video exactly how impressive this feat is and why we should be very, very happy and very, very grateful to be domestic double winners. Okay, we haven't secured the treble this year. The Champions League has evaded us and will end up at one of the 2 Madrid clubs. I think we're all hoping it's Atletico Madrid for obvious reasons. But let's just have a look at what we have achieved, and that is the La Liga title. That is the Copa del Rey. Both of those we've retained, which is impressive in itself, because I think when you win a trophy, and certainly the players that we have, when you win a trophy for the first time, it's outstanding. Like Leicester City, for example, in the Premier League. They've won the Premier League, and then you feel like you've given everything in that season. You've given absolutely everything that you've got. And then in the second season, then teams seem to wise up to you. They start to understand the way that you play. They start to understand what you're going to do before you do it. And not only that, it's also the sort of motivation that just loses itself a little bit. Those Leicester City players next season won't quite be as determined as they were in that previous season. And those 50-50 balls, which they were winning every single time, and that little bit extra they were running every single time, maybe in that second season you wouldn't do it as much. There will be some times where you didn't go in for that ball, they didn't go in for that tackle, didn't make that run. And I think that's what happens when you win a trophy. And certainly the season that we had last season, treble winners, it would have been very, very easy for these players who have already won everything there is to win in their careers to just drop off a little bit, to just drop off the motivation. And I think at the start of the season we saw that happen a little bit. We got absolutely smashed by Athletic Club in the Spanish Super Cup 4-0, and I think that was a real wake-up call. And I think Luis Enrique has done so well to keep all these players motivated, because certainly coming to the latter stages of this season, when we blew our lead at the top of the league, we needed to make sure that we were still motivated, still had our sights and our targets in mind. And I think Luis Enrique and the players as well have done really, really well to get themselves over the line, because there's no doubt that we did suffer a dip in fatigue, was a real problem for us. Our squad has been quite thin all season long. We've done really, really well though. On the back of a transfer ban, don't forget, in the summer we were unable to add to our squad whatsoever until January. We've managed to still secure a domestic double, and no doubt next season we will be even stronger than we are this season. And that's incredible really, because once again this season we've dominated, and we really have. The La Liga title we may have only won on the last day by 1 single point, but if you look at the season as a whole, we were outstanding. At the start of the season we really pulled away, we were strong, we were very, very good, we were efficient, and then going into the middle period of the season, which was our real purple patch, we were blowing teams away in the league season. And I think, the domination at Real Madrid was outstanding. We beat Atletico Madrid twice in the league, and I think those sort of things really stand out for this season in terms of our success, and in terms of the Copa del Rey as well. That was a big part of our season. Certainly in the new year, 2016, January, February was full up with Copa del Rey games, but we came through those really well. The 8-0 win over Valencia has to be a highlight. Really outstanding performance on that night at the Camp Nou, and just in general really the performances throughout the Copa del Rey season have been outstanding. And to retain both the La Liga title and the Copa del Rey is a feat that should not be underestimated. We've done really, really well this season. We've competed at such a high level, and it's been the consistency which we've showed. Like I say, I know that we gave up our lead in La Liga, but at the same time we've managed to keep going for the entire season in all fronts. With the players that we've got, the squad wasn't as big as it should have been, but we've managed to keep going, keep succeeding, and keep making sure that we pick up those points and those wins to secure us titles. And like I say, we went out of the Champions League, which is of course a massive disappointment, but nobody's ever retained the Champions League title, so you can't really deem that as a failure. A lot of teams have been in our position where they've won it the previous season and then found it very, very difficult to retain it. And the team that beat us, of course, in the Champions League final and could lift the trophy themselves. So Atletico Madrid are there. They beat us fairly and squarely, so they're in the final now, and the team that could beat us could go on to be champions. So that would soften the blow a little bit. The fact that Real Madrid may not win it would also soften the blow. But certainly just not being Champions League winners, you can't expect a treble to come every single season. Those expectations are unrealistic. They're a bit unfair on the squad. These players are only human. I think in terms of the players that we have got in the season that they've had, MSN once again have been absolutely magnificent. They've smashed their trophy haul and their goal targets once again. But I think in terms of individuals, Luis Suarez, of course, top goal scorer in La Liga. Probably, I think it's probably fair to say he's been our best player this season. Of course, you've got to look at Lionel Messi, but he was injured for a few months, so that made it difficult. I think Neymar, of course, had an outstanding period where he's by far the best player that we had. But then, of course, in the end of the season he's dropped off. So in terms of consistency and being on the pitch and being available for the games, Luis Suarez has delivered time and time again, and he deserves real credit for what he's given us this season. I think our defence was extremely shaky at the start of the season. I mentioned that game against Athletic at the very beginning of the season. Also the Super Cup against Sevilla, where we conceded 4 goals then, was poor as well. And of course we got smashed by Celta Vigo in the league season as well. But from that, they've really learned a lot as the season has gone on. We've been more and more solid at the back since we suffered that dip in the La Liga form towards the end of the season. Then we kept a lot of clean sheets. We kept a clean sheet against Granada, Betis, Sporting Gijon, Espanyol. And at the end of the day, we've managed to keeping those clean sheets, keeping it tight at the back when it mattered the most, and that's really impressive as well. Our midfield, I feel, has been overworked. I think we haven't really had enough replacements for the likes of Rakitic, Iniesta, specifically Busquets has had to play a lot of football this season. He started the season in really fantastic fashion, he really did, but of course, as the time goes on, you get more and more tired, and certainly next season, we're going to be looking to rotate that a little bit more. Rafinha, of course, was out for most of the season with injury. Sergio Roberto tried to fit in wherever he could, and he's been outstanding throughout the season, hasn't he? Really, a really breakthrough season for Sergio Roberto, playing at right back in that first game of the season against Athletic Club at San Mamés. He did really, really well that day, and from then on, he's gone from strength to strength. Played a big part in our win at the Bernabeu over Real Madrid, got the assist for Luis Suarez for that first goal. So certainly a breakthrough season for Sergio Roberto. And then, of course, he spoke about MSN. Fantastic again. The bench hasn't been as strong as we'd like it to be. The bench hasn't contributed as much as we'd like it to, and hopefully next season, that's why I say that next season for me will be a lot stronger. Even though this season has been very, very successful, next season for sure excites me because we've got a transfer window now. We can spend it on players. We can go out and strengthen our bench, improve our squad, reduce the age a little bit if we can. And certainly I think there's a lot of promise going into next season. We set ourselves up really, really well this season. And I think if you look at past successes, you look at Pep Guardiola, who came in his first season and did the treble, which was, of course, a phenomenal achievement then and certainly a phenomenal achievement now. We did the same last season under Luis Enrique. But in the next season, Pep Guardiola only managed the league title in that season. He didn't get the Copa del Rey and he didn't get the Champions League. So we've actually done better, Luis Enrique, than Pep Guardiola has. Of course, people will consistently make comparisons between the two, but I don't want to sit here and do that. All I'm going to say is Pep Guardiola's achievement was fantastic when he managed to do it all those years ago, and now Luis Enrique has managed to do it, and even better, that is outstanding in itself. So both of those people can get huge credit, and certainly this season, once again, we've got to give credit to Luis Enrique. We've got to give credit to these players because they once again supplied us with a very, very successful season. And I just think that a domestic double is an extremely hard thing to do. You look at the Champions League, and whatever team wins the Champions League, you usually say, well, they're the best team in Europe, but it's very, very little that actually works out that way. You look at the winners over the past few years. Chelsea won it in 2012 over Bayern Munich, and they certainly weren't the best team in Europe at that time. A lot of the Champions League relies on the luck of the draw, which you've seen this season with Real Madrid, and it doesn't always turn out that the best team wins it. I think that's the case again this season, although if Atletico Madrid win it, I would certainly say they've deserved it. They've had a tough draw, they've played very, very well throughout the tournament, and if they win it, they would certainly be deserving winners. So the Champions League doesn't always reflect the best team. We'll go again at the Champions League next season. Of course, we'll want to try and do better and try and get our hands on that trophy again, but in terms of the domestic success, a league title is an incredibly hard thing to win. You've got to be consistent over a period of 38 matches. You've got to keep going every single week. You've got to be ready. You've got to have a good squad. You've got to use the squad in the right way. And certainly this season we've done the best that we can in that aspect. We've played well. And I think throughout the season, whatever we try to do, we try to do it very, very well. And I think we all deserve credit for that. I think the fans have been good this season. I thought the Camp Nou, there's been some really special atmospheres throughout the season. They've really got behind the team when we've needed it. Because like I say, we did have that drop-off in the league, and we needed everybody at the end of the season to really pull together and get through it. And it did seem like we were getting very, very tired, more and more tired, and we were dragging ourselves through the games. But certainly towards the last period of the season, we really hit a purple patch for goals scored. We got through the final few games of the season. And of course, now the Copa del Rey final, we secured success in as well. So that shouldn't be underestimated. It's been a really good season. A domestic double is a club that, whatever team you support, you should be very, very pleased with. So I hope we can really see that appreciation and grateful for what we've succeeded this season. And like I say, we should be all looking ahead of next season and being very, very excited indeed, because you can be sure that we're going to improve the squad this summer. We're going to keep hold of our best players, and we're going to go again next season, and we're going to be absolutely ready for that title charge. But like I say, you can't have the expectation every single season going into a season thing, we're going to win the treble, we're going to try and do this. Of course, if it happens, it's a fantastic achievement, but you can't always expect that of a team. It's unrealistic. It's very, very difficult. It doesn't happen at many clubs at all over their history, let alone in a few years like we've had it at our club. So we're very, very lucky. We've had a great season again. We're very, very fortunate to be fans of such a special club with such fantastic success. Leave your thoughts down below, guys, on how well we've achieved this season and what you rank as our biggest achievements. What do you think is in store for next season? How do you see that going? And are you excited? So let me know down below, guys. I will see you very, very soon. But until then, as always, it's been a fantastic season. I'll still be here with the summer, though. Until next time, Vesca! El Barça! Barça! Barça!